when he talked to a city council member.
And you were trying to get the city council to reopen or to start a new investigation about what happened on Building 7.
That's right. And
go ahead, sir.
Yeah, well, we were just talking. We talked to 12 of them so far personally, and that's exactly what we're trying to do. And some of them, they came out and said they fully appreciate what we're saying. They weren't arguing the point. It's a very tenuous political type thing to stick your neck out as an individual or just a couple people. So what this campaign is about, from what I understand, is to educate the public at large, so that the city council can have the public support to initiate an investigation of World Trade Center 7 and whatever fallout comes from that.
Right, and I think it's really a safe place to start, because if you start at the buildings 1 and 2, people, have an instant sort of reaction, and there's been so much information and misinformation out there, and you can argue whether or not a plane could possibly do that. It had never happened before, but here's a building that was 47 stories high.
Yeah, 610 foot tall. That's even more impressive, I think, to say it that way. The stories were each 13 feet because you have a drop ceiling and all. The 610 foot tall, that's a long way. And the plan, the area of it, each floor was a football field in area. So if you can imagine a football field and then take it 610 feet high, that's how big this building was.
Right. And there was a lot of controversy as well about the fact that you can watch online a British newscaster saying, we've just heard news of the collapse of World Trade Center Tower number 7, and in the background of the live shot is Tower 7 before it fell.
Right. It's right behind her shoulder. The lady, Jane Stanley, didn't know. She didn't know Building 7 from any other building, so she wouldn't know that.
And yet,
apparently,
15, 20 minutes later, it fell.
Right. Well, Aaron Brown from CNN also called it early.
Yeah, and then was promptly fired.
Well, yeah, there was some of that, right.
Indeed.
Right.
Now, Bob, how many families who have lost loved ones on 9/11 are involved in BuildingWhat.org?
Well, Ted's told me he's been running BuildingWhat, but approximately 100.
100.
Yeah.
And do you all
I certainly haven't talked to all of them, but
and you all get together in an effort to raise public awareness and to get people to understand just what happened on Building 7, hoping that it will open the investigation and the minds of the American public to, the bigger picture on 9/11?
No, as family members, we don't get together. The only time we've gotten together, I mean, I've dealt with certain family members over the years, but it's amazing there's not that many, but certainly at least 100 have signed on. But that's the reason we did the commercial, because we're talking 4 different family members. I don't know if you've seen the commercial.
I have seen it, yes, sir.
And we did a commercial before also concerning, the petition that we had. We were 81,000. I don't know if the public knows that the Building What campaign came from the petition, 81,000 signatures, having a referendum at the November elections of 2009 to open up a new investigation on Tower 7. And the Judge Lehner, Supreme Court Judge Lehner, felt that the petition, the names weren't gathered properly. But anyway, when they were talking, the lawyers were talking to him about Building 7, he said, Building what? Well, it just shows that no one knows about Building 7.
Right.
It's been covered up since day one, and that's how how Ted came upon the Building What campaign. Then, last winter we made the commercial, and then with donations we showed the commercial throughout New York City. So again, we want to, New York City is obligated to investigate this, because at first they had said it's a federal case, but it's not a federal case, because that happened after the buildings first and second came down and the planes hadn't hit it. So that was the whole purpose of that. And, of course, Gerardo had seen it, and that's the first time we ever had it on mainstream media.
Right.
Because we walked out of Gerardo, and Huckabee was sitting in there, and he was astounded by it. So it just shows you no one. And that's a real clue that this has been covered up for so many years.
Mm-hmm.
But here's 2 people that, you think they're on top of things, and Huckabee had never seen this. He didn't know that Building 7 had come down.
Yeah, which
so,
is, really sort of the failure of the American media
Oh, it's
right
horrible.
there.
Absolutely horrible.
Or, I don't know, some sort of complicity in something. I don't know. It just doesn't make sense, especially with the British journalist saying that the building had just been reported to have fallen before it did.
Oh, absolutely.
Can I ask a question here?
Yes, sir.
Everybody should ask themselves, if Building 7 had fallen like that on any other day in any city in the United States, would it not have been major news for several weeks? Okay?
Yeah, because it defies the laws of physics.
Yeah, it does. And I think you heard me, if you understood what I was saying on Geraldo, that in a natural collapse, and I want to say it for your audience, if they hadn't heard this, in a natural collapse, columns have to buckle. And the resistance of a buckling column when it's bending never goes to zero. It's what we call asymptotic. That means you've seen curves like on XY graphs where the curve never hits zero.
Yeah.
In this case, it stays like at 25% of the intact strength. So you can never reach free fall acceleration, which is what it did for 105 feet or 8 13-foot tall stories. That's how that thing was just coming down. There was nothing. It wasn't pancaking. There was no floors hitting floors. For 8 stories, it just moved at full free fall acceleration of gravity, as if you dropped it.
Because there was no resistance.
There was no resistance
Because
whatsoever.
something had taken out the steel beams before the floors hit it.
That's the only conclusion you can come to, Ro.
Right.
That's it. And that's why I got to give you credit for sticking your neck out there a couple of years ago on The View.
Yeah.
And I can tell you a lot of people noticed, and guys who weren't normally watching The View. It became interesting to us. So
yeah. Well, I don't know. I have a lot of friends, and I met and I lost some friends in there, and I met Willie Rodriguez, and I don't know. There was something about it. You know how I became interested is the producer of The View, who has sort of a very right-wing male Republican agenda. He wanted to have on a guy who was debunking the 9/11 controversy. And I was like, what are you talking about? And he's like, well, he's debunking all those weirdos who I said, the weirdos who think what? And I started Googling. And that's when I went, holy shit.
Right.
Yeah,
right.
holy
I remember
shit.
something about, well, it was also James Brolin that got you to look at it and tell you to watch 9/11 Mysteries. I think it was in December of 2006. I saw that. I saw a clip of that where he said, watch 9/11 Mysteries. Go to 9/11 Mysteries or 911weknow.com.
Yeah.
And you said at the end, well, we don't know what that's all about, but we'll talk to you next time. Right. And apparently you did for several reasons. So James Brolin knows.
Yeah.
And I'm sure Barbara Streisand knows.
Yeah, well, there's a bunch of people who have questions, I think, who are patriotic Americans who really want the American system of democracy and the, judicial system of checks and balances to be in play on this, the most horrific day in our nation's history. We want to find out the answers, and for everyone who lost someone and for what the country lost on that day, which is, too numerous to count. Right. I think that we all deserve a full and impartial investigation, and I want to thank both of you for calling in. And, Bob, I wish there was some way that I could help heal the wound in your heart. And I know it will never go away. And that your boy, will be with you forever. And I'm tremendously sorry for your loss.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that.
I just want to say, Rosie, if people really want a new investigation of 9/11, this BuildingWhat campaign is probably the closest we're going to get to a real, honest investigation. So I would encourage people to go to that website, buildingwhat.org, and you can contribute $5, $10 if you have it, so that they can show these commercials more, possibly get a publicist. Everybody needs to get on board and ask what's going on with that building.
Yeah.
And there were some funny things in that building, too.
There sure were. Some of the tenants were quite interesting.
Well, not only just the tenants, but the Enron California energy manipulation of 2001. Those files were...
All those records were destroyed, yes.
That's right. And those cases were never resurrected. And that was before Enron went bankrupt. So this affects all the American people, in addition to, of course, more severely those who lost people that day.
That's right.
But it affects all of us, and I think we need to get to the bottom of it.
I do, too. I thank you very much for calling in and appreciate all the work and you guys literally, sticking your neck out on what was once a very unpopular concept, what is now becoming more questionable in the minds of many, largely due to both of your tireless work. The organization is BuildingWhat. BuildingWhat.org. We encourage you to go on the website. We're going to take your calls about this later. I thank you both for calling in. We'll be back right after this break.
Rosie Radio.